To protect my mom during a domestic violence incident, I accidentally killed my dad. Since I wasn't 16 yet, I didn't go to jail, but my mom ended up hating me. "It's all your fault, you ungrateful bastard. Why don't you just drop dead, you murderer? I like getting beaten. Who asked for your help? Why couldn't it have been you, you little beast?" I fell into depression from her relentless daily complaints and verbal abuse. On the day of the college entrance exam, she locked me in the room and refused to let me take the test. In despair, I jumped off a building, only to find myself reborn on the day I killed my dad. This time, I didn't grab that kitchen knife. I was 14 when I accidentally stabbed my father to death. My dad was a gambling addict and often lost money. Whenever he lost, he'd drink. After drinking, he would start beating his wife and children. It was a Saturday night. He came home drunk as usual. My mom anxiously rushed to support him, only to be kicked to the ground by his boot. Then he grabbed my mom's hair and started beating her. My mom let out a blood-curdling scream, desperately shouting my name. To protect her, I burst out of the room without hesitation. Seeing me stand up for Mom, Dad flew into a rage and started taking his fury out on me too. At 14, I was scrawny from years of malnutrition, but still a teenage boy with growing rage. My father's brutality fueled my rage. Without thinking, I bolted into the kitchen and grabbed the kitchen knife. The tip of the fruit knife was razor sharp, which was exactly why Mom never kept it in the living room. For fear that my dad might impulsively grab the knife to stab her during his violent outbursts. But she hadn't expected me to dash into the kitchen and grab that sharp kitchen knife. When I finally snapped back to reality, my father was lying there in a pool of blood. It was my mom's stinging slap that jolted me awake. "You ungrateful little bastard. How dare you stab your own father? If your dad's hurt bad, I'll beat you dead myself. Call 120 now, you little bastard." The woman who had always been meek around her husband now showed no mercy in beating me. Her slap was so hard it ended up rupturing my eardrum. But my father was taken to the hospital too late. He didn't make it from excessive blood loss. My mom immediately called the police, wanting them to arrest me and have me shot dead to pay for my dad's life. But unfortunately, she didn't succeed. For one, I was only 14 then, not even 16 yet. The second reason was that I hadn't intended to kill my father, with surveillance footage supporting this. In the end, they let me go. Had I known what came after, I would have rather been locked up. When I got home, my mom hated my guts over my dad's death. Not only did she refuse to take me to get my ear treated, but she started treating me like her sworn enemy. Day after day, she'd barrage me with insults: "Murderer. Ungrateful wretch. You killed your own father." She went out of her way to spread the word about my crimes all around the neighborhood and at school, hoping that everyone would vote to send a father killer like me to prison. From then on, she never made me a single meal again, and refused to let me eat anything she bought, determined to torment me until I died as vengeance for my father. The staff at the neighborhood committee and my school knew the truth about me killing my father. When they saw how my mother abused and mistreated me, they all sympathized with me. Thanks to them, I managed to not starve to death on the streets. To escape that suffocating home, I threw myself into studying, determined to get into college and escape that suffocating home. But on the day of the college entrance exam, my mom slipped sleeping pills into my drink and locked me inside the house. When I woke up and saw her face twisted with vengeful satisfaction, I lost all hope in life. Didn't you always want me dead? Consider it done. If there's another life, even if he beats you to death, I won't so much as glance your way. Under her hate-filled gaze, I jumped from the top floor. When I woke up again, I found myself back in the cramped room of my childhood home. My right ear, once deafened from the beating, was now strangely acute, no longer completely devoid of sound. As I was dazed, my mother's familiar voice came from the doorway. "Honey, you're home? I kept some chicken soup for you." The next moment, my mother's scream pierced through the living room as she was kicked violently, accompanied by thunderous crashes of furniture being smashed. I suddenly realized I had been reborn. I was back to the night in my previous life when I killed my father. Soon, The living room echoed with my father's stream of curses intertwined with my mother's desperate pleas and pained whimpers. A few minutes later, their fight spilled over to my bedroom door. My mother's body, as in my past life, was slammed hard against the door by my father with a muffled bang. "Son. Shout Tyler, help me. Wah wah wah, stop hitting me. We really don't have any money left. Next month after I get my paycheck, I'll give you all the money." But my father kept on, punching her again with a heavy blow. "You damn hag. Can't you scrape up more than this pathetic amount each month? Other women are willing to sell themselves for their husbands, but you're so high and mighty, holed up at home all day. I'll beat you dead, you worthless piece of shit. Do you always look down on your old man? Who the hell do you think you are?" Thud, thud, thud. The muffled sound of fists pounding flesh repeatedly thudded outside my door. The flimsy door quivered incessantly, threatening to give way any second. But this time, I didn't charge out to save my mom like I had in my past life. Wasn't she the one who'd rather get beaten than leave my dad? As a son, how can I not give her the respect and blessings she deserves? I sincerely hoped they would stay together forever, chained to each other. I grabbed my headphones, plugged them into my phone, and started playing music, drowning out the violent thuds and anguished cries outside. After a dozen seconds, the door gave way and burst open from the outside. My mother stumbled into my room. She desperately reached out, her eyes pleading. "Help me. I'm gonna be beaten to death by Dad," she wailed. My father shot me a fierce glare at that moment. "Got some nerve now, huh? Daring to stick your nose in my business? You want to get beaten up too?" I just looked at them calmly and said, "If you want to fight, take it outside. Don't mess with my studying." When she heard this, my mother stared at me in disbelief. "Shout Tyler. What did you just say?" I looked at her impatiently. I said, "Take the fight outside. Didn't you always say beating is caring and yelling is loving? If Dad hits you, it means he loves you. Otherwise, why wouldn't he go smack some other woman? Don't you actually enjoy getting beaten by Dad yourself? If you want to play your little love-hate games, take it to your bedroom. Keep your domestic drama away from my studies. Can't you see I'm prepping for the damn high school entrance exam?" My mom stared at me, completely stunned. My father grabbed her by the hair and hauled her into the living room. Before leaving, he sneered with a grin, "Smart kid. Look at you, still begging for his help? In your dreams." He kept punching and kicking Mom, taking out his gambling frustrations on her. I stepped forward, closed the door, and locked it. It wasn't until over 10 minutes later that my dad, exhausted from the beating, collapsed on the sofa snoring loudly, and the living room finally fell silent. At 11 at night, I went out to fetch water. Then I saw my mother walk to the sofa with a blanket, carefully covering my father, worried he'd get sick from the alcohol. But the moment she saw me, her eyes instantly sharpened with hostility. In a hushed, disappointed voice, she demanded, "Shout Tyler, when Mom asked for your help earlier, why didn't you do anything? How come I never realized you were this heartless, sitting by while your own mother gets beaten without lifting a finger? You're such an ungrateful little beast." I was used to her insults, curses, and accusations. Listening to her now, I felt nothing, no flicker of emotion, just cold amusement. After putting the lid on my cup, I looked at her coldly. "If you're happy to take the beatings, me helping you would just ruin your bonding time as a couple, wouldn't it? Besides, it's not like I haven't helped you before, but you still got pissed I laid a hand on your precious husband and slapped me twice. From now on, I'm staying out of your marital business. I'm just a kid anyway, and my teacher says studying's my top priority right now." After saying that, I didn't bother checking her reaction and simply turned to go back to my room. This time, even if she were beaten to death by my dad right before my eyes, I wouldn't utter another word. In my previous life, before accidentally killing my father that night, I had indeed urged my mother to divorce this man who had completely rotted away from within. "Mom, I'm grown up now. I can support you. Why don't you just leave him?" However, my mom slapped me across the face with such force. "What the hell's wrong with you, you little shit? If I leave your dad, you'll just be some broken home kid. How's that gonna help you, huh? What child doesn't want their parents to stay together happily? But you're actually pushing us to get divorced." That time, She grabbed a broom and beat me relentlessly, as if pouring out all the bitterness she'd suffered from my father onto my body. She hit me with such force. At that moment, I realized my mom was actually quite capable of hitting someone, except the someone was just me, the more vulnerable one. It wasn't until the broomstick snapped that she finally stopped, then tearfully apologized to me. "Tyler, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Mom was just so upset for a moment. "Can you forgive me this time, please?" According to psychological studies, children inherently rely on and trust their mothers. So even when a mother loses her temper and hits her child, the child will still cry and crawl back to her, begging for hugs and comfort, terrified of losing her affection. That's exactly how I was in my past life. Even though I was upset while being beaten, seeing my mom tend to my wounds the next day with her heartbroken face, I ended up forgiving her anyway. Another time, seeing my dad beating her mercilessly, I retreated to my room and called the police. She rushed over and slapped me, then nervously explained to the police that I'd made a false alarm out of childishness and insisted Dad hadn't laid a hand on her. This kind of thing kept happening many times over. Every time I got into a fight with Dad, she'd end up telling me to just take it and not hold a grudge against him. "Tyler, don't blame your dad. It's all because Mom's useless, can't earn decent money. Your dad was really good to me before, and I believe he'll change for the better sooner or later. He came to me first thing this morning apologizing and promised he'll do better next time. Your dad never meant to hurt us, he's just been stressed out lately and needed to blow off steam. We should be considerate of Dad." She clung to the hope that my dad would come to his senses. Trapped in his cycle of abuse and fake affection, she grew more submissive, utterly devoted to the man who mercilessly beat her. Except for my dad, she had eyes for no one else, not even me. Fortunately, in this life, I've stopped clinging to any hope for her. No matter what end she meets, she brought it upon herself. At noon, my dad unexpectedly came home with a pound of meat, wearing a pained and guilty look as he said to my mom, "Honey, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I was a total monster last night, getting drunk and taking it out on you. Come here. Let me check. Still hurts?" My mom's eyes welled up under my dad's feigned concern. She shook her head right away. "Honey, I'm all right. I know it wasn't on purpose. Look at how worn out you've been from staying up late. I'll go cook right now and fix you a stir-fry." My mom quickly replied. My father nodded, a smug look crossing his face. Watching my mom's busy figure, his eyes gradually darkened with greed. My mom quickly whipped up the meal and hollered for me to come eat. At the dining table, Mom kept putting meat into Dad's bowl. "Eat more, dear. It'll build up your strength." I couldn't help sneering coldly in my heart. "Yeah, gotta make sure he's well-fed so he can beat you harder next time, huh?" Just as I reached for the meat, Mom's chopsticks came down hard on my hand. She glared at me with a frown. "Tyler, you're old enough. Can't you be more sensible? Can't you see how haggard your father is? How dare you snatch meat from your own dad? Can't you even show some care for your dad?" My mother glared at me with bitter resentment. Hearing her words, I shot her a cool glance and stayed silent, bitterness simmering inside. I was 14 years old, but I looked no older than a 10-year-old, my body nothing but skin and bones. And my dad? She had fattened him into a blubbery mess. If she wasn't blind, she should know who the one needing the boost really is. But I had long since grown accustomed to my crazy mom's willful blindness and heartlessness, and her neglect no longer fazed me. I should have realized it long ago. Every bit of her love went to my dad, leaving me not even a strand's worth. I didn't say a word, picked up some greens with my chopsticks, and began eating. After dinner, I grabbed a plastic woven bag and went out to the trash cans outside, collecting recyclables to sell at the recycling station. Counting on Mom to fund my education wasn't an option anymore. If I wanted to escape my family, I needed to start working hard to make money right away. Throughout Sunday, I made $14 from collecting garbage. If I only ate plain steamed buns, they could last me a week. On Monday morning as I headed to school, my mom sure enough hadn't given me a single penny. She didn't even leave me breakfast, just rushed off to work. To fund my dad's gambling, she never takes sick leave no matter how brutally he beats her, terrified of losing her job. But I couldn't be bothered to care about her affairs anymore. After arriving at school, I went to see my homeroom teacher and told him I wanted to move into the dorm. My teacher agreed right away. Now I was in the third year of junior high, a critical time for the high school entrance exam, and staying on campus would make reviewing more convenient. After a week of surviving on plain steamed buns, I gradually adjusted to ninth grade life. Thanks to my previous relentless studying to escape that household, returning to ninth grade made relearning most of the material quite straightforward for me. Just by collecting recyclables, it would be tough for me to save up enough for tuition and other school expenses over the next few years. So I needed to aim for first place and secure the scholarship. Number 1 high school offered generous rewards for top-performing students. The highest scorer in the grade received $2,000. $2,000 was enough to get me by for a long time. After staying at school for a month, I finally had to go home when the break came. When I arrived home, my mother was humming a tune as she prepared dinner. Seeing me return, she beamed and said, "You're back. Go wash up, dinner's almost ready." I glanced at her and noticed a liquor bottle on the TV cabinet with a rose stuck in it. She seemed to be waiting for me to notice it. When she noticed me looking at the roses, she beamed with happiness and said, "Your dad's really turning over a new leaf these days. Look, he even got me roses." I said coolly, "Nice." Then walked into my room with my backpack. That evening, my mom was uncharacteristically generous, scooping me a bowl of chicken soup. "Tyler, you've been working hard with school. Here, drink this." I finished the chicken soup without a word and returned to my room to keep studying. The final exams were coming up next month, and whether I could get that bonus was what mattered most to me. That night, my father returned home in exceptionally high spirits, laying on thick sweet talk for my mom. "Dear, you've really had it tough all these years. Here's a cake I got for you. Have a taste." My mom was moved to tears once again. I detected something off in my dad's words. Sudden kindness without reason is never without a scheme. My dad suddenly acting so nice toward mom was definitely suspicious. But I won't warn my mom anymore. Even if I warned her, she wouldn't believe me. She'd just think I couldn't stand seeing them happy together. Even if my dad sold her off, I wouldn't utter another word. After all, even if my dad sold her out, she'd still convince herself he had no choice or was forced by circumstances. On Monday morning, I took the $30 I made from collecting trash over the weekend and went back to school. On Wednesday, my homeroom teacher came rushing over in a hurry. "Joe, Tyler, come here quick. There's trouble at home." Upon hearing this, I calmly closed my book. What's happened to my family? My mom tried to kill herself by cutting her wrists and was taken to the hospital. My dad called and asked me to go take care of her. Suicide by cutting her wrists? I raised an eyebrow slightly, then nodded. Got it. I'll head over now. Thanks for telling me. With my teacher's help, I went to the hospital. When I arrived at the ward, my mother was still having a meltdown. "Let me die. Please, just let me die. Wah. I can't live with this shame anymore." The medical staff pinned her onto the hospital bed and administered a sedative. I approached with a blank face. "Mom, what's going on? Why'd you try to kill yourself? Did Dad hit you again?" My words caused the nearby medical staff to glance at my mother in surprise. But when Mom saw this, she panicked and shook her head firmly. "Don't talk nonsense in front of others. When has your father ever laid hands on me?" Hearing this, I wasn't the least bit surprised. Even if my father beat her to death, she'd probably consider it a blessing to die by his hands. "Why did you try to kill yourself?" I asked flatly. My mother's face twisted into an awkward expression, tears pattering down like sudden raindrops. "Tyler, your dad, he actually..." I looked at her quietly, waiting for her to explain why she'd attempted suicide. But she just pursed her lips and shook her head. "It's nothing. I just had a weak moment and tried to end it all. It has nothing to do with your dad." Hearing her explanation that only made things more suspicious, I nodded coolly. "If that's all, I'll head back to school. You should call Dad to come take care of you." My mother's face darkened as she gazed at me, words trapped behind her lips. I knew she wanted me to stay and take care of her. But why? It's not like she doesn't have a husband. Without waiting for her to speak, I turned and left briskly. Then I went to the hospital bathroom and checked the security footage from home. Soon enough, I discovered why she had attempted to take her own life. Last night, 3 unfamiliar men entered my home. As they left, they were all fastening their belts. After they left, my mother stumbled out of the bedroom looking disheveled and started screaming hysterically at my father. My father landed a few punches on her. "Bitch, you've got some nerve. How dare you curse at your old man? It's your damn blessing you can earn cash for me. There are tons of women out there willing to earn cash for me. You should be damn grateful I even settled for you. If you dare cause trouble again, I'll divorce you. Even without you, I can still find a pretty obedient wife in no time." My mother was instantly terrified by my father's threat to divorce her. Then she dropped to her knees and grabbed his legs, desperately pleading with him not to leave her. "Darling, I'll obey you from now on. Please don't abandon me. What will happen to the kids if we divorce? I'll be gossiped about and shamed for the rest of my life." My father's face finally twisted into a smug grin. Should have thought of that sooner. He then counted the red banknotes in his hands and grinned from ear to ear. "Look, you made $2,000 in just one night. Isn't this way faster than breaking your back at some lousy job? Go clean the room now." My mother immediately hunched her back in submission and nodded meekly, then retreated to the bedroom to clean up. My mother has always been a neat freak. Even if my dad was constantly throwing things around the house, she'd still clean up after him without fail. But what my father did truly broke her heart. Around 2 a.m., my father discovered her slit wrists and immediately called an ambulance, frantically carrying her out of the bedroom on his back. After finding out why my mother had tried to kill herself, I was overwhelmed by a deep sense of sorrow. So this is the good husband she kept obsessing over, a man who'd pimp out his own wife for money and even play doorman himself. Even after enduring such humiliation and harm, when she woke up, she still desperately tried to cover up for him and smooth things over. But if she could deceive herself, how could she possibly deceive others? If this gets out, I'll be branded as the son of a whore from then on. But I've long stopped giving a damn about this kind of reputation. No matter how harshly outsiders curse, can their words ever sting as viciously as my mother's? Besides, they're the ones who pulled off those shamelessly rotten deeds, not me. I will definitely get top grades and leave home for good. After the final exams, I checked the security cameras to make sure no one shady was home before going back. Winter vacation had arrived, and the weather had become much colder. I was still wearing the same down jacket from years ago, which had long lost its warmth. When I got home, my mother was tying a scarf around my father's neck while fussing over him. "Honey, it might snow today. Be careful walking home after your card game. You're the backbone of our family. Don't you dare slip and hurt yourself." My mother looked tenderly at my father. My dad, wearing a brand new winter coat, grunted impatiently, yeah. Then he swaggered out of the house. When he saw me, he just patted my head and said, "Tyler, I'm heading out. Listen to your mom, got it?" I ignored him, walked into the house with my backpack on. The moment I walked in, I found Mom glaring at me. "Tyler, your dad spoke to you. Why didn't you answer? Is that how your teachers taught you to behave?" She looked at me sternly. She wouldn't tolerate anyone in the house showing disrespect to my father. I gave her a cold once-over and said pointedly, "Seems Dad's been treating you real nice lately, buying you new clothes and all." My mother's face instantly stiffened, her smile turning strained. She knew exactly where the money for those new clothes came from. That was knowledge she couldn't escape. But after all, such things get easier with repetition. However, I didn't wait for her answer and simply returned to my room. Every time the money came through, Dad would beam at her and shower her with praises about how capable she was. Gradually throughout the month, Mom began shedding her inner turmoil. But around me, she couldn't hide her guilt, terrified I'd discover how filthy the money behind those clothes truly was. However, I didn't wait for her reply and headed straight to my room. That evening, my father lost all the money he'd gotten, stumbled home drunk and fuming. The moment he saw my mom, he threw a punch. This time, the curses had changed. You fucking bitch, you think you're better than me now? Huh? Thought you were so pure? Now look at you. What a slut. I'll beat you to death, you shameless whore. I'll divorce your ass and get myself a fresh, untouched virgin. My mother was deeply wounded by his words and couldn't hold back a furious roar. Michael, you're heartless. If you hadn't let those people in, would I even be doing this? How could you? I only did this because you forced me into it. How dare you look down on me now and even mention divorce? I'd rather die than divorce you. When my father saw she actually dared to shout back at him, his rage intensified. His huge fists pounded down on her in a relentless barrage. I listened to the thuds and screams outside, tugged on my headphones and burrowed under the quilt, muffling that disgusting racket. The next day when I got up, my father was gone, and my mother sat on the sofa crying nonstop. Tyler, you up yet? My mother suddenly stared straight at me. I gave her a cold glance. Did you hear the fight me and your dad had last night? She looked at me cautiously, probing my reaction. Looking at her expression, I couldn't help but find it utterly ridiculous. Now she suddenly cares about keeping up her pathetic pride in front of her kid? Do you two ever stop fighting? Who even cares what it's about this time? I'm busy. Won't be home for lunch. I took my school bag and left the house. On my way out, I saw her let out a sigh of relief. It snowed heavily last night, leaving few people outside and barely any plastic bottles in the trash bins. Instead of scavenging for recyclables, I grabbed my report card and went door to door in nearby neighborhoods, asking if anyone needed a tutor for their kids. Auntie, my rate is really low, just $5 an hour. Here's my report card. You can check with my school if you need to verify. Everything's completely legit. I told a chubby woman. I was familiar with her kid. She'd been to plenty of tutoring sessions, but her grades just weren't improving. Seeing that I came first in every exam, and even aced several subjects with perfect scores, her eyes lit up. $5 an hour? That's such a good deal. All right, let's give it a try then. She nodded and let me go to her home. When I arrived at her house, her daughter was hunched over winter break homework and flinched when her mother entered. Mom, you're home. Hey, Bella, this is the new tutor Mom found for you. Have her tutor you for an hour and see how you like it. Bella looked at me curiously and nodded. Their house had the heating on, and my chilled body gradually thawed out. Then I calmly walked Bella through each question. After an hour had passed, her mother came in with tea and snacks, smiling at me. Looks like people the same age really do understand each other better. When I hired a college student tutor for Bella before, she couldn't sit still for more than 15 minutes. But this time, she actually stayed focused for a whole hour. Auntie, can I stay and tutor her? I couldn't help but ask. Of course. You can start coming every morning at 9 and teach till 3. We'll cover lunch and pay for 6 hours daily. How does that sound? I felt a wave of relief and nodded gratefully. Absolutely, that works perfectly. I knew the plump auntie had noticed my tattered clothes and underfed look, so she made sure to include me for lunch at their place. When I got home in the afternoon, my mother frowned at me. Where have you been all day? You didn't even pick up my calls. I looked at her coldly, was studying at a classmate's. Didn't hear the phone. Seeing that I was still holding my backpack, Mom didn't press further. That night, I was still working on practice exams when I suddenly heard the front door open. Honey, you. My mother's voice stopped abruptly. A stranger stood at the door. My father glared at her, then shoved the man inside with a forced smile. My buddy's staying over. Got any objections? He growled. My mother wrung her hands and whispered, of course not. Then she whispered, Tyler's home today. Did you forget? What if he finds out? My father felt a pang of guilt, but his gambling urge overpowered all shame when eyeing that cash. Scared of what? He's not gonna find out. The three of them went inside. Not long after, I heard unsettling noises emanating from the bedroom next door. In an instant, my stomach churned violently. I wanted to puke. Disgusting. So utterly vile. These disgusting people are my parents. If I hadn't gone through my previous life, I would have charged in there with a knife right now. But she doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve my protection. From the moment she destroyed my life for my father, she ceased to be my mother. Over an hour later, the noises in the room finally died down. Soon after came the sounds of my mother's choked sobs and my father's half-hearted coaxing. Before long, the crying gradually subsided, giving way to those same unsettling noises again. Once people discard their sense of shame and morality, they become lower than beasts. The next day, both my dad and mom were home at the same time, a rare occurrence, and even made breakfast for me. They tested me with probing questions, and after seeing I didn't catch on, they both sighed in relief. Little did they know I couldn't be bothered with their nonsense. After breakfast, I went to Nanan's home to tutor. The new year was soon upon us. My mom had been busy since the crack of dawn, wrapping dumplings and tang dollar. During this time, they apparently realized my presence at home made no difference, so they grew increasingly daring day by day. Every now and then, they started bringing people home. I didn't report them because I knew that even if they got caught, Mom was likely to claim Dad had nothing to do with it. She might even volunteer that she'd done something unfaithful to Dad with another man. In that case, the illegal act would be brushed off as a family matter. Finally, school began as I'd been eagerly anticipating. I couldn't wait to gather my belongings and the money I'd made from tutoring over winter break, heading to school at the crack of dawn. That filthy home now only filled me with disgust. This time, I was determined to rely on my own efforts and gradually extricate myself from the quagmire of my family. I won't give them another chance to hurt me. Upon arriving at school, I found the exam rankings had already been put up. I lived up to my own expectations and took first place. The class teacher knew my family was struggling and that I often only ate plain buns, so she got some money from the academic dean for me early on. "Joe Tyler, you've got this. Keep this money hidden and don't let your parents know. We haven't contacted them either," the teacher said, her eyes softening with worry. The homeroom teacher gazed at me with heartfelt concern. I nodded earnestly. "Thank you, ma'am." With this money, I could finally stop restricting myself when it came to food. In my previous life, chronic malnutrition left me standing at just 1.6 meters when I turned 18. This time, I don't want to be so scrawny anymore. The cafeteria food was cheap, so I began eating meat and drinking milk with every meal, hoping to build myself up as quickly as possible. Afraid that growing too fast would cause pains, I gritted my teeth and bought calcium tablets. After eating like this for the better part of a month, my knees began to ache. But a smile spread uncontrollably across my face. I knew my nutrition was finally improving, and I was beginning to grow taller. And it wasn't long before my clothes started riding up on me. My homeroom teacher couldn't stand seeing me like this and quietly slipped me a bundle of clothes. "Joe Tyler, these are my brother's old clothes. Hope you don't mind." "Thank you, teacher. Why would I ever mind?" I replied gratefully. In fact, I managed to survive those years in my past life simply because so many kind souls kept reaching out to help me. If it weren't for them, I never would have made it to 18. But my mother's hatred for me was so intense that every bit of kindness others offered me was crushed into the shadows by her endless stream of curses. She snatched away the last shred of warmth I clung to. On the eve of the high school entrance exam, my mom got pregnant. When I found out, the baby was already 3 months old, but I wasn't sure if it was my dad's. Also, getting an abortion would cost money at the hospital, so she kept putting it off. But she didn't want to keep the baby. And my father was even less likely to let her delay earning money because of giving birth. "Darling, why don't you just feed it out of me? Don't they always show this kind of thing on TV? That way, we can skip the hospital and save the money we'd waste on an abortion." Dad hesitated, then nodded in agreement. "Darling, this is tough on you. I'll take care of it when I get back tonight. Need some liquid courage to act this recklessly. You know I'd never lay a finger on you normally." Mom teared up again, eyes brimming with tears. "Honey, you're so good to me." That night, after my dad staggered home drunk, he launched into another round of hitting and kicking my mom. "Confess now, whose little bastard is this exactly?" My father's eyes were bloodshot as he slammed his knee into her stomach again and again. After just 2 or 3 knee strikes, Mom's face turned deathly pale as she begged him to stop. "Honey, stop hitting me. The pain. I can't bear it." But my dad was drunk. There was no way he'd listen to her. "Huh, you're whining already? Think I'm stupid? I haven't even started on you yet." Then he kept beating her, kicking her stomach again and again. A few minutes later, blood spread across the floor. My mom was writhing on the floor, clutching her belly. "Husband, the baby's coming out." My father stared at the blood-soaked floor and finally regained a sliver of sobriety. "All right, I'm off to bed. You mop up the floor." With that, he went straight into the bedroom and passed out cold. At first, my mom was relieved the baby had actually been kicked out, saving them the surgery costs. But soon, she was seized with panic. Because she couldn't stop the bleeding. Clutching her stomach, she crawled desperately toward the bedroom and began pounding on the door. "Honey, help me." But my dad was dead asleep, completely oblivious to her desperate pounding on the door. So she had to crawl to the living room coffee table and dial 120 for an ambulance. By the time the ambulance arrived and got her to the hospital for emergency treatment, it was already too late. Just before passing out, she managed to whisper weakly to the stunned medical staff, "Don't blame my husband. I accidentally fell." But she didn't know she would never wake up again. When I got the news, it was already the next afternoon. I wasn't the least bit surprised when I heard Mom had died from massive hemorrhage and a miscarriage after Dad kicked her. Looking at her pallid face in the hospital, I couldn't help wondering, did she die the death she deserved? Beaten to death by the man she loved most, she must have accepted it willingly and without regret. At her funeral, my dad knelt down and cried his eyes out while begging for forgiveness. But I think that 90% of his grief was over losing his cash cow. If I were a girl, I'm certain he'd have made me replace Mom to earn his dirty money without hesitation the moment she died. Afterwards, I compiled videos of Dad abusing Mom and forcing her into shady dealings, then anonymously sent them to Grandma. After my mom married my dad, she cut off all contact with her family. But after seeing the circumstances of her death, I believed they wouldn't remain passive. Not long after, the police came and took my dad away. Convicted on multiple charges, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. For me, 5 undisturbed years were enough for my wings to truly harden. 3 years later, I was admitted to the top university in the country and independently transferred my household registration to the school. After my father was released from prison, I applied for a graduate program abroad and settled there permanently. I will never return to China in my lifetime, nor will I give that deadbeat gambler another chance to drag me down.